In 1969, peace and love flourished at Woodstock Music and Art Fair, but ended tragically at Altamont Speedway Music Festival.
On August 15, 1969, held on a 600-acre dairy farm in Bethel, New York, the Woodstock Music and Art Fair began.
The idea originally stemmed from John Roberts, Joel Rosenman, Artie Cornfield, and Michael Lang, and they were trying to make enough money to build a recording studio near Woodstock, New York.
Although the organizers originally planned to bring music culture to Woodstock, they were unable to find a venue, and so they had to move the festival to the next town over, which was Bethel, New York.
Leading up to the event, 186,000 tickets were sold and no more than 200,000 people were expected to show up. However, their calculations were wrong, and close to 500,000 people attended that day.
In the weeks leading up to the festival, there was a lot of heavy rain in the town of Bethel, so they couldn't construct a fence to keep people out who didn't pay. It was estimated that 1/3 of the attendees paid the $7 admission fee.
Because of the lack of fencing, the staff were unable to control admissions. Therefore, organizers decided to open the concert up free of charge to the public.
Because they were unprepared for the mass of concert goers, there were not enough bathrooms or first aid tents at the event. This could have turned into mass chaos, but due to the laid-back atmosphere of the crowd, it was surprisingly systematic and peaceful.
The Woodstock Nation was a term used to describe youth counterculture of the 1960s. These hippies who attended the 3-day concert were able to express their love of counterculture through the vibes of peace, love, and rock and roll, embodied through the various acts that took place.
Some of the best musical acts of the concert were The Who, the band, Janis Joplin, Johnny Winter, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Jefferson Airplane, Santana, Joe Cocker, Crosby, Stills, Nash & Young, and the most memorable moment of the concert was the closing solo guitar performance of the Star-Spangled Banner by Jimi Hendrix.
Like the audience, the songs performed expressed opposition to the Vietnam War and promoted a relatively peaceful environment with a few minor incidents.
For example, there were only 2 deaths, one being a teenager accidentally run over by a tractor while resting in a sleeping bag, and another died from a drug overdose.
Although only one overdose, it's figured that about 90% of the concertgoers were under the influence of marijuana. It's also rumored that 2 babies were delivered successfully and there were 4 known miscarriages.
This festival was a quintessential point for counterculture and rock and roll. There is a museum and exhibit at the Bethel Wood Center for the Arts to memorialize the Woodstock Festival and attract those nostalgic about the event. There have also been many anniversary festivals mimicking the original event.
In 1994, the 25th Woodstock anniversary took place and was known as 2 More Days of Peace and Music.
The 25th anniversary was held 10 miles away from Woodstock in Saugerties, New York. 555,000 people attended this anniversary concert.
It is known as the middle child of Woodstock concerts and also known as Mudstock because of the constant rain and sloppy conditions.
Unfortunately, at the concert, 2 people died from pre-existing conditions. One had a ruptured spleen and the other diabetes.
This peaceful reunion cost $135 to attend, and it was sponsored by Haagen-Dazs, Apple, and Pepsi.
The 30th Woodstock anniversary was quite different. It was held in July 1999 in Rome, New York.
Amidst all the violence, rape, and fires, 400,000 people attended.
Held on a previous airstrip, the concert venue had no trees, causing it to be above 100 degrees Fahrenheit.
Although there were no deaths reported like the other concerts, this Woodstock concert was the most violent.
In contrast to the Woodstock Festival, the Altamont Speedway Festival of 1969 was marked by violence and tragic death. It took place on December 6, 1969, at a remote location in Northern California, where about 300,000 people attended.
Just a short 4 months later, people in Northern California wanted to recreate the spirit of Woodstock in their own concert. However, from the start, it was poorly organized, resulting in an improvised affair with a venue at the Altamont Speedway.
Altamont was the brainchild of the Rolling Stones, an English boy band formed in London. They are one of the longest touring rock bands in the world. Others who played at the concert were Santana, the Jefferson Airplane, the Flying Burrito Brothers, Crosby, and Still and the Nash.
Because this was a free event, the organizers hired Hell's Angels Motorcycle Gang as an informal security staff, in which they were paid $500 worth of beer for their service.
Due to the presence of the gang, violence broke out and many incidents occurred.
The Altamont Festival took on a theme of darkness and death. The music was never enlightening, but rather radical. Unfortunately, the concert became less known for the music and more about the tragic events that took place.
This concert is famous for the notorious stabbing of Meredith Hunter, an 18-year-old African-American concert-goer.
Meredith Hunter was an African-American male who was reportedly on methamphetamine and carrying a gun when he charged towards the stage, causing much chaos, which led to 21-year-old Alan Pissarro, a member of the Hells Angels security, to stab Meredith Hunter to death.
Hunter just might possibly have survived his horrific wounds. There was a lack of medical care on site of the concert, and if doctors had been allowed to rush him to the hospital in the helicopter that was instead stubbornly reserved for the band, he could have survived.
This event was so monumental it was captured on film in Gimme Shelter, a documentary by Albert and David Maisel and Charlotte Zerwin. The name of the documentary, Gimme Shelter, was named after one of the Rolling Stones songs. And the documentary was released on Sunday, December 13th, 1970.
While grieving her son's death, Alta Mae Anderso, mother of Hunter, filed a $500,000 lawsuit against the band and settled for $10,000.
This murder is very controversial. For example, Alan Pissarro was tried but acquitted on grounds of self-defense. To this day, the validity of the trial is still debated.
In addition to the murder of Meredith Hunter, there were a lot of other tragic events. For example, a member of the Jefferson Airplane, Marty Ballin, was knocked down by an Angels pool cue, and a confused naked man was beaten to the ground.
A less well-known incident was when a 19-year-old drowned in a canal while trying to sneak in to the concert.
Furthermore, 2 men were run over by an unidentified car thief while sitting by a bonfire.
The legacy of the Speedway Festival was one of negativity. People wrote about the Altamont as the day the 60s died and the anti-Woodstock era, and it ended the hopes of a happy hippie era.